Hello, welcome to Shad Life. I am out here with my We the People Swampmaster, and what I want to do is answer some questions people have been asking and talk about a couple more things about this bike. So let's start with the first question after I take... Oh my gosh, I just finished it. What am I gonna do? All right, throw that over there. So the first question is, will this fit 22-inch wheels? I don't think it will. So I did some measuring, and this overall diameter comes to about 21 inches, and there just isn't much room. If you don't know this, I'll tell you right now, when you measure wheels, you measure them with the tire. So like a mountain bike 29er is a 29-inch wheel with the tire on it, and so on and so forth. 27.5 is a 27.5 measurement with the tire on it. Here on a 20-inch bike, 20-inch with the tire on it. But if you have a bigger tire like this, you're going to offset that. I think the ideal tire size to get 20 inches is like a 2.1 maybe, or 2.0, something like that. Original BMX wheels came with 1.75 tires, but I think those were a little bit less than 20 inches. So this comes through almost 21 inches, and I just don't think that there's enough room to fit another, you know, you'd fit another ½ inch in there, right? But then you're running right up against there. And then in the rear, sure, there's space up front here and there, but there's not much space here. And as you move forward, this gets narrower. So I don't think it'll fit 22s. And I don't know why you would want to do that, because I think, and I've said this before, what makes this bike work are the big beefy 2.6 tires. It's what makes it a downhill BMX dirt jump bike. That's pretty much what it is, right? So I mean, that doesn't mean you can't do other things with it, but that's kind of its intended purpose. Okay, let's answer the next question. Okay, and then people have been asking how the suspension pivot works on this bike. Some people think that the frame just flexes and there's actually not a pivot point. There actually is. It is around the bottom bracket, and you can't see it from this angle. So I'm gonna go flip the bike over and you'll see it from underneath. I actually did a short on this, but I'm just gonna repeat that information here. So this whole rear end does pivot around the bottom bracket. Let's take a closer look. So I'll come over to this side, and you can see that this is actually grooved out, and there's, I guess there must be 4 or maybe 6 bearings in here with the frame pivots on, and then the bottom bracket bearing for the cranks. So I guess I don't know how it internally works, but you can definitely see that this moves when the suspension compresses, and that there actually is a pivot here at the bottom bracket. Why it's at the bottom bracket and not some other kind of linkage like you'll see on some full suspension bikes is because it's single speed. So you don't want the distance between here and here changing. So by having the pivot at the bottom bracket, this distance will always stay the same and not cause issues with the chain. How much suspension travel does this bike have? Well, I don't know the rear yet. I'm gonna suspect the rear is like 60 millimeters or so, but I don't really know. There isn't a lot of movement here, but you don't measure the travel here. You measure it how far up and down this goes, and I don't know lever wise like how much that will move from this pivot with this movement. So I'd have to do some stuff. Maybe I'll let all the air out of the shock, measure it in full extension, and then slide down. But I don't know how I'm going to do that yet. Maybe draw something on the wall behind it or something. I don't know. I'll figure that out and give you that, but I'm going to guess right around 60 to 80 in the rear. And the front we know is 100 because it specifies that. It's a 100 millimeter fork, looks like a 100 millimeter fork. It's very typical of a DJ fork, 100 millimeters. So there you have it. That is the travel, at least as far as I know it at this time. So the thing I want to talk about is sizing, right? So it's a 21.5 top tube length. One of the things that's interesting is if you think of a normal BMX bike, the fork is going to be down here where the crown is. You're not going to have this extra distance. Because of this extra distance and bringing the front of the frame up, you actually shorten the top tube. In mountain biking, we use a measurement called reach, where center and bottom bracket draw a line straight up and then to the top of the head tube. So the reach would be somewhere in here, this length. As you bring the front end up, that reach shortens. So the reason they made this a 21.5 top tube is to kind of offset the fact that the front end is higher, and they probably had to lower the bottom bracket some so the bottom bracket didn't get too high because of the rear suspension, but the front end is definitely lifted quite a bit more than the rear end is because of the fork travel there. So this feels more like a 20.75 or 21 inch bike. And if you look at how I have the bars, I usually line the bars up with the fork angle, but because this is a 71-degree head angle, I actually have the bars forwarded more like how I have them on like my DWA BMX bike. So there you have it. It is, I would think of it more as a 21 inch if you're trying to compare to a regular BMX bike. And of course, the last question to answer is, do I like it? The answer to that is yes, but with a couple of additional bits of information. I like it for what it is. I do not think it's a BMX bike replacement, and I certainly don't think it's a mountain bike replacement. It's its own thing. It's this kind of new category now. Like, so will this become a thing? I do not know. I do know that, fingers crossed, now that I've done some research, they actually did come out with a frame. It's a titanium frame, 22-inch top tube, pretty much the same concept as this. I could probably get one of those and swap all these parts over, right? 21-inch frame, but it's titanium, and it costs almost $2,000, or right around $2,000 just for the frame. So if you are a diehard and you want to support Ruben and the fingers crossed thing, there you have it. They also have a regular hardtail, I guess we're gonna say a hardtail now, in BMX BMX frame that's titanium. So they're available to support if you don't like what we the people did here, you know, as my original unboxing video, stealing their idea, right? So yes, the answer is I do like it, and I think it's a really cool idea. I was pretty stoked when I saw that this was available, and I basically snatched it up right away without even thinking twice about it, right? Because it was something I really wanted to try and see if I liked it. For dirt jumps, things like that, maybe in the street doing big drops or something, it might be kind of fun to mess around on. I, of course, as you know, I'm an older rider now. I'm 56, so on and so forth, and it's just a fun thing to play around on. If you are short on budget and you can't afford to buy like multiple bikes like I do, I would not recommend this being your bike, right? If you're gonna get into BMX, buy a real BMX bike. If you're gonna get into mountain biking or dirt jumping, get a DJ bike or a mountain bike for that, whatever, right? This is kind of a niche thing. Like, it's cool to have as an extra bike in my stable, but it's not a replacement for anything, and definitely not a replacement for BMX. Like, for riding skate parks and street and doing the stuff that I like to do on my BMX bike, I still will ride my regular BMX bike for that. But I am having fun with this, and I do like it, and it rides a lot better than I thought it would ride, which is pretty cool. So yeah, I like it. Sweet. I appreciate your support for my channel. Please like and subscribe. Peace.